Hi, I'm Eli Isley, Field Specialist in Horticulture with MU Extension. Today I'd like to talk to you about how to save your own tomato seed. First, we need to talk about what tomato seed you can save. You can save seed from any tomatoes. Some things you might hear about are open pollinated versus hybrid. Hybrid tomatoes are most commonly encountered when purchasing seeds, and normally you would purchase F1, which is the filial generation 1, which means it is the result of a sexual cross between two parents that were chosen to make this resulting seed that will grow and provide the tomatoes that you wanted. You can save seeds from these, but it won't save true to seed. So the tomatoes you grow when you save a seed from a hybrid won't be the same tomato that you saved seed from. But it's legal to do, and it can be interesting to see if you want to try and do some breeding on your own, which you're welcome to do. Then there's open pollinated and heirloom. So every heirloom variety is open pollinated, which means it hasn't had a controlled pollination like you need with a hybrid, but not all open pollinated tomatoes are heirloom. You can create your own tomato variety by making a cross and then save it over and over again until it's stable and no longer segregates out, and you'll have an open pollinated variety. Or it can be a recently discovered variety that saves true to itself, and that is open pollinated. But heirloom means it has been a family heirloom or a generational heirloom or a cultural heirloom. And so not every open pollinated is an heirloom. So you want to save some tomato seeds. You got to choose what tomato you want to save. So you're going to go after whatever the best characteristic is for you and for your tomato growing and eating. For me, I like to have interesting and colorful tomatoes, but you may want to choose something that gives you the biggest plant or the most yield, but whichever one you choose to save the best examples from that plant. And you want to choose a tomato that you want to eat or has some other significance, but makes more sense if you want to eat it. And if you can, choose multiple fruits from multiple plants of the same variety, even though it's not always possible. So the supplies you're going to need are the tomato. You're going to need a knife to cut the tomato, a spoon to get the seeds out, a jar to ferment the tomato seeds in, pencil to write on your coffee filter or paper plate of the variety and the date. You also need a work surface. Here I'm using a cutting board. So you cut your tomato in half and you squeeze and scoop, and the locules where the seeds reside, covered in gelatin, will start to pop out. As you can see, I'm squeezing them down into the jar, and I'm using the spoon to get them into the jar. And then you want to cover your jar with water and let sit for 3 to 4 days. I filled the jar up about half full, and I put it in my garage. And you'll see here that the good seeds will sink. On the right side, you can see them down at the bottom, and I definitely got some scum on top. So the fermentation, it breaks down that gelatinous layer around the seed, which can inhibit germination and make it difficult to singulate the seed out when planting. So after you're done with the fermentation process, you're going to pour off the scum, and then you're going to fill and continually decant until you get down to just clean seed at the bottom. It takes a few times going, but it's like winnowing seed. You'll know when you're pouring too much and you start pouring out good seed. And then you want to go ahead and just pour it out onto the coffee filter that you labeled previously with a pencil. That won't run. And then you leave your coffee filter to dry. And ideally, when you spread out your seeds, you'll make sure they're not touching each other. But with a coffee filter or paper plate, after they're dry, a day or two, they'll easily come off, and then you can store them. As you can see here, they have Paul Robeson's tomato. Mine was Janie's yellow. You put it into an envelope, you seal the envelope. You want to store it in a cool, dry place. It's good for 3 to 10 years. You're going to want to write the variety, the date, the source of the tomatoes, and any other special notes. Please also take a look in the description of this video for a video link from Juan Cabrera on how to do seed treatments. So the other thing we need to talk about now that you've saved your seed and you've grown out the next year, and then maybe you didn't get the tomato you wanted when you knew it was open pollinated and it should breed true to seed. So you know that crosses happen, so that even though tomatoes are highly self-pollinating, maybe you had a lot of pollinators in your garden and one of those insects dragged pollen from one tomato to another. So in the future, if you want to make sure that you don't have any crosses happen, you want to choose a cluster of flowers that haven't opened yet and place a paper or cloth, not plastic bag, over them for a few days. Shake it gently every morning. That may help the pollination. Remove the bag after the flowers wither, marking the cluster with a tag so you remember which one you bagged. I like to mark things with a big piece of ribbon. tree tape or whatever it might be, because sometimes it's hard to find a tag in a big tomato plant. So watch to see if any fruits start to form. And if they do, your pollination worked. And if a fruit didn't form, try again. This is something you're going to want to start early in the season if you want to make sure. And this is the same process you would use if you were making your own crosses after your cross was made. Thank you for your time. Here are the references. I wish you the best of luck with saving tomato seeds.